Chosen one, take a moment and consider something you probably never paused to truly weigh. God does not arrange meetings by accident. When your path collided with that person's, it wasn't chance, luck, or a mere episode in your life. It was an encounter written by heaven long before time began. Think back to the first exchange, a glance, a few words, a conversation that felt strangely familiar, or an inner stir that whispered, "Pay attention, this is different." That small, uncanny moment was the fingerprint of the divine on a bond that sooner or later would become a spiritual battleground. Not because the connection is weak, but precisely because it carries a colossal purpose. Some people pass through our lives like a breeze, leaving barely a trace. Others stay and carve deep, indelible marks into the soul. This person didn't cross your path just to fill pages in your story. They are woven into your purpose and your calling, someone who will shape you, challenge you, and press you toward the destiny God has already scripted for you. That's why the link feels so intense, so unlike anything else, and at times unbearably heavy. It wasn't forged by mere human will, but by a divine decree. Let me be clear, this isn't romantic fantasy or sentimental idealism. What's at stake is purpose. God does not pair his chosen with random companions. Sometimes the one beside you holds keys to doors you could never open alone. Sometimes they function as a mirror, exposing corners of your heart you'd rather hide but must face to mature. At other times, they are the one appointed to walk with you through storms, so you won't abandon the promise because of loneliness. Every moment matters. Every conversation, every clash, every reconciliation, all are threads in a far larger tapestry than your feelings can perceive. And here's the crucial point. The enemy sees that picture even when you don't. He knows the danger two aligned souls pose. He knows the force created when purpose meets unity, so his attacks intensify. That's why confusion arrives quietly. That's why doubts roar louder in the solitude of night. The enemy does not waste energy on hollow ties. He invests his power against what threatens his rule. Chosen one, hold this truth firmly. When God authors a story, the opposition rises. That is why you feel resistance. That is why you've asked yourself, if this is from God, why does it hurt so much? The answer is straightforward. It hurts because it matters, it weighs because it's sacred. If this connection were temporary, it would have faded long ago. The fact that you're still here, that the bond persists in spirit, and you cannot let go despite the storms, that is proof there is an eternal purpose beneath it all. Can you see it now? That first meeting was not simply the start of a relationship, it was the herald of a mission. Heaven planted something in that union, none of you fully understand yet, and the enemy will use every tactic to destroy it before you realize what was sown. So stand firm, not naively or passively, but with discernment, prayer, and steadfast faith, that what God established cannot be undone by chaos. Feel it in the depth of your heart. You are handling something holy. This connection was never a mistake. It belongs to a greater plan, and when that truth takes root in you, the reasons for the struggle will begin to make sense. Reflect on this. If God himself wove your path together with another's, will you treat that bond as ordinary? Or will you begin to view it as the spiritual battleground it truly is, the very ground the enemy fears to see you conquer? Pay attention. Your struggle is not merely about arguments, hurtful silences, or personality clashes. It's far deeper and more calculated than the human eye can see. Scripture reminds us that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. The pressure you feel, the heaviness in your chest, that sudden urge to give up none of it, originates solely from the person before you. The enemy sows subtle seeds of defeat, convincing you to relinquish an alliance you haven't yet fully understood. His method never shouts, it works between the lines. He takes a small problem and builds a wall. He magnifies a disagreement until it seems insurmountable. He reopens old wounds and persuades you they define the present, tricking you into believing the story will repeat. He doesn't need to topple you at once. He chips away at your faith until you release what God joined. That's the danger. To give up would be more than losing someone, it would be renouncing a divine mission. This bond is purpose and kingdom work. Some battles were never meant for you to carry alone. The heavens placed this person in your life for a reason far beyond companionship. If you step away now, you're not merely walking from a relationship, you're abandoning the mission birthed with that union. The enemy knows this and does not relent. He understands that if you stand, the harvest will shake his realm. If you quit, he has already won. Think back. How many times did you want to throw everything away and then feel an inexplicable pain in your chest, as if something greater pulled you back? That ache is not mere emotion, it's your spirit, signaling that the battle isn't about fleeting feelings, but destiny. Deep inside, you sense that this warfare exceeds both of you. The enemy is not merely targeting the relationship. He targets the profound impact it will release if it endures. So ask yourself honestly, if God personally intertwined your path with another's, will you treat that as ordinary? Or will you start seeing it as the sacred battlefield the enemy trembles to see you win? In my view, this isn't just about human connection or emotion, it's about divine alignment. I truly believe that when God links two souls, it's never random. There's always a greater purpose hidden beneath what looks like ordinary encounters. Sometimes that purpose comes with pain, with misunderstanding, and even with silence, but none of it is wasted. Every challenge serves to refine what heaven has designed. To me, this kind of bond isn't something to be taken lightly or dismissed as coincidence. It's sacred, even when it feels heavy. The struggles that arise within it aren't proof of failure, they're proof of significance. If the enemy fights so hard against it, it's because he knows the power it carries. That's why I've learned to see resistance not as a sign to walk away, but as confirmation that there's something holy being protected. I believe that when two people are truly joined by God, the connection becomes a battlefield for purpose, not for destruction. And in the end, if both hearts remain faithful, what was once painful will reveal the glory of what heaven intended all along. When two souls chosen by heaven decide to stand together, deeply rooted in faith, they become a living weapon against darkness itself. Their unity breaks old cycles, heals generational wounds, and releases blessings that ripple far beyond their time. That's exactly why the enemy fights so fiercely to tear them apart before they ever realize the magnitude of their power together. Be honest with yourself. Chosen one, that voice whispering for you to walk away, does it really come from God or from the one terrified of what your union could release? Because God never speaks through fear. He doesn't guide through panic or desperation. His voice brings peace even when it corrects. It brings clarity even in silence. So if the voice you hear only pushes you to give up, it's time to discern where it truly comes from. The enemy loves to disguise defeat as wisdom. He manipulates emotions, twists logic, and cloaks surrender in false prudence. But your spirit knows the difference. Don't be deceived. The storm you're in is not proof of weakness, but of power. If this bond were meaningless, the enemy wouldn't waste his energy attacking it. The battle you're facing is evidence of how much spiritual weight your connection carries. And here's the truth. If you walk away now, you won't just be surrendering a relationship. You'll be abandoning the mission God entrusted to both of you through it. That's why this isn't the time to retreat. The stakes are far too high. Your endurance isn't simply about love, it's about obedience to divine purpose. If you give up too soon, you'll never know what heaven was about to release through your persistence. But if you stand firm, one day you'll look back and see that every struggle was preparation for the breakthrough waiting on the other side. Pause for a moment and reflect. The pressure you feel isn't a sign that you should quit. It's a sign that you're standing at the threshold of something the enemy fears. The louder the attack, the greater the purpose behind it. So I'll ask again, whose voice have you been listening to? The God who designed every detail of your future, or the enemy trembling at the thought of it? Don't mistake the weight you carry for failure. The silence that feels like abandonment, the pain that makes you question everything, all of it is proof of purpose. Job's suffering wasn't meaningless. It was the evidence of faith that endured even in fire. Joseph's prison, David's cave, Job's ashes, all were breaking points before victory. Now look at your own story. The quiet, the exhaustion, the urge to let go, none of it is random. They are signs that you carry something too significant for the enemy to ignore. The greater the pressure, the closer you are to the promise. It's always darkest before the dawn, always heaviest before the breakthrough. If Joseph had given up in prison, if David had surrendered in the cave, if Job had cursed God in despair, their destinies would have ended before fulfillment. The same is true for you. This trial isn't the end of your story. It's the final test before the turn. The enemy wants you to believe you're being destroyed, but you're being refined. The fire didn't come to consume you, it came to reveal the authenticity of your faith and love. And when the smoke clears, you won't just survive, you'll rise, knowing every tear had meaning. So remember this: when the silence deepens, when the pain tightens its grip, when the fire burns, the hardest dare to believe you're standing on the edge of the promise. The intensity of the battle only confirms the greatness of what's coming. The real danger isn't the storm outside, it's the temptation to quit too soon. Think of a seed buried beneath the soil. Once covered, it disappears from sight. Days pass, then weeks, and the ground looks the same, still, silent, unchanged. Doubt creeps in. Maybe the seed died. Maybe the soil is barren. But beneath the surface, life is already moving, roots are spreading, strength is forming, and the unseen is working harder than what the eye can see. If you dig it up too early because you've seen no growth, you'll destroy the miracle just before it's born. It's the same with God's process. When frustration pushes you to give up, you forget that He's still working in silence. Just because you haven't seen change in that person, or heard the words you've been waiting for, or witnessed movement in your situation, it doesn't mean heaven is silent. God is the perfect gardener. He strengthens the roots before revealing the fruit. And if you quit now, you'll never see what was about to break through the soil of your perseverance. Never forget, in the kingdom, progress rarely looks visible at first. Silence is not absence. Waiting is not rejection. Confusion does not mean the plan has failed. Sometimes you're simply sitting in the waiting room of your miracle. Impatience will try to convince you the door is closed, but it's not locked, it's simply not time yet. If you walk away now, you might leave just one sunrise before your breakthrough. Let that truth settle in. One day after giving up could have been the day of your miracle. How many times before did you think it was over, only for God to shift everything at the last moment? How often did light break through the darkness right when you decided to hold on a little longer? Don't trade a lifetime of promises for a moment of relief. And now, let me ask you one serious question. If tomorrow was the day of your miracle, would you still be willing to give up today? Chosen one, now that you understand the weight of this connection and the reason behind the intensity of your battle, it's time to fight back, but not with human weapons. The war for what God has placed in your hands is spiritual, and only those who use heaven's weapons will prevail. Start with prayer, not the routine kind, but the kind that grips heaven and refuses to let go. Bring that person before God every single day. Speak their name in secret. Ask the Lord to guard their mind, their heart, and their path. Instead of repeating the pain in your thoughts, start declaring blessings. Speak life where the enemy whispers death. Declare clarity where confusion reigns. Declare healing where wounds still bleed. When you stop feeding complaint and begin releasing blessing, you align yourself with heaven instead of empowering the enemy's lies. Next, refuse to fight with your tongue. Arguments and accusations will never build what God has ordained. Words carry power, but when fueled by anger, they destroy more than you realize. True battles aren't won by shouting, they're won on your knees. The quiet prayer of a faithful heart thunders across the spiritual realm. When you kneel before God, you rise with authority no argument can match. The enemy doesn't fear your volume, he fears your prayer. Finally, trust God's timing, even when he seems silent. His silence isn't absence, it's strategy. Like a commander in battle, he reveals the next move at the appointed moment. He's arranging pieces you can't see, healing wounds, shifting hearts, aligning circumstances. And when the time is right, everything will unfold exactly as he planned.